Hello chess friends and welcome back to your Zarov chess channel. So it's been a while since my last video here, my YouTube chess channel. I've been somewhere in between giving up on all of this or maybe continuing my work here on YouTube. It was a little bit overwhelming for me, continuing my regular work, doing all the family stuff and then also having my YouTube chess channel. But now I'm fresh, I'm recovered sort of, and I missed really analyzing some beautiful games on YouTube. I've continued, of course, to play chess. I've never gave up on chess, but I had to really take some breaks, and now I can continue with the new energy and with new willings to make a really spectacular videos for you here on my YouTube chess channel. So as a comeback, I prepared a very an amazing gameplay by the best chess engine in the world, by Stockfish 17 against another top engine, chess system Tal. If you haven't maybe followed this computer world, this chess system Tal is supposed to play like Mikhail Tal. It's supposed to play tactical, aggressive, sharp, aggressive chess. But of course, Stockfish is a different kind of a beast. And what's also very cool for me here in this game is that we'll cover one of my favorite openings, the so-called Harrwitz attack against the Queen's Gambit decline. The Harrwitz attack, I think, is very nice method to meet the solid Queen's Gambit decline. So let's see now what happened with white. Here the fish opened with the move d4. Chess system Tal's responsible knight to f6. We have c4, e6, knight to f3, and after d5, knight to c3, the standard 3-knight variation of the Queen's Gambit decline. Now comes bishop to e7, and Stockfish goes into the so-called Harrwitz attack with the move bishop to f4. This move, of course, is not meeting with this ultra aggressive ideas of the Queen's Gambit decline, where you're battling maybe here for the e4 square by attacking the knight. Here the Harrwitz attack is sort of a different method, where you're attacking maybe here the queen side, especially maybe with also ideas to play rook to c1 or similar stuff. So castling here by chess system Tal, we have e3, c5, also good move here by chess system Tal. Also, what's I think a decent method to play against the Harrwitz attack from black's perspective is the so-called fianchetto variation with b6. Then you can expect white to continue with c takes d5 or similar ideas. After e3, c5, we have d takes c5, releasing the pressure in the center of the board, and now chess system Tal, of course, takes. Stockfish continues now with a3, which is a good method. Also, queen to c2 is playable. I think these are the two most flexible moves now in this particular position. What we should not do from white perspective in this position is to maybe here also release the pressure in the center of the board. You can play it. I'm not saying you lose the game, but what you're trying to do is keep your opponent's light square bishop out of game. You're not allowing him to maybe develop the piece. As I said, it is playable. You probably keep your opponent with an isolated d pawn, but I'm not a fan of this line, because then the light square bishop, as I said, is finally getting bad. So from white perspective, we're waiting black to take maybe here with d takes c4, and then you can get your bishop out with a beautiful tempo. Here the chess system Tal continues development. Stockfish plays now queen to c2, and after rook to e8, now Stockfish plays already a beautiful and aggressive move, queenside castling. And usually you want to place your rook on the d file, which is perfectly fine, but queenside castling is, I think, not a common method here, especially when we watch now this position. The position is really dynamic, and the c file is already somehow open. It could be open, so there are several tactical threats that white could face maybe here after queenside castling. But the good part is that you still keep your rook on the d file, and we can notice here that the queen is endangered on the d file. So here it becomes now this opposite side attack game, where the kings are on opposite sides, and who is faster on the attack will probably win the game. Here chess system Tal continues with queen to a5, knight to d2, a very important flexible move again by the fish. We want in some lines to get the queen out of this mess. The queen is very active here, and we should not tolerate it, because here there are even some threats maybe in some lines, maybe not immediately, but bishop to a3 followed with queen to a3 could could be very, very dangerous to handle here for white. So that's why knight to d2, anticipating the possibility of bishop to a3. What should you do now from black's perspective? I've analyzed now this line at home. If, for instance, black continues with the normal a6, seems tempting that you are trying somehow to make also progress on the queen side by maybe pushing the pawn to b5 afterwards, but this is a little bit too slow, because after c takes d5 and e takes d5, there is this method, knight to b3, and we see now that the queen is overloaded to the defense of the bishop on c5. Even if you try queen to b6 to hold the position here, then knight to a4 will happen, and we'll have a double attack, even a triple attack against the bishop. So game over here for black. After knight to d2, that's why bishop to f8. Here chess system Tal gets the bishop back, is still continuing also the pressure against the pawn on a3, but is also having a certain defensive setup here in front of black's king, which will be very important. Now at least two minor pieces are protecting here black's king. Again, here I would say natural moves by black. My Stockfish engine at home evaluates this position as 0.4 in white's favor. So far nothing spectacular is going on. So now comes king to b1, and this is actually a theoretical novelty. This move has never been played so far in chess history. I've also checked out the Lee chess database, and no one played this move, which in my opinion is quite a natural move, nothing spectacular, getting the king out of this potential c5 mess that we have discussed. Maybe rook to c8 could happen, and now the king is out of this tactical possibility. So what should again black do? Let's see again if you can try maybe this method with a6. This wasn't played in the game, but again I was curious, can black really make anything happen already here on the queen side? a6 seems tempting, but now after bishop to g5, we notice that the knight is a little bit loose here. It's not protected anymore by the bishop, and then if you try b5, then we'll simply take it, and now you take out this one. Even if, for instance, black continues with b4, there is this beautiful defensive resource that we have discussed also previously. Knight to d2 was a very, very important move, meanwhile, that Stockfish played. Now you see we have this extra tempo against the queen drops back, and now we can target here this weak f6 square. You try maybe knight to a5, but knight to f6 is going to happen, and I would say the position is again getting destroyed here for black. So even if you try here maybe d takes c4, then knight to c4 comes again with the beautiful tempo, queen to f5, and now bishop to d3. Here white is much better. I would not dare to say white is completely winning, but look at this setup that white is here. All of the pieces are on great squares. The queen is endangered. Again, my Stockfish engine at home evaluates this position as almost +2 in white's favor. So in AI chess world, I would say Stockfish would destroy any chess engine from this particular point on. So not working here. Also the move d takes c4. For king to b1, sorry, bishop to f8, king to b1, chess system Tal played now h6, trying also to play the move g5. And now comes a very important move, I would say, when it comes to opposite side attack games. We see that the kings are on opposite sides, so white's king is on the queen side, black's king is on the king side. So now in order to be faster, you have to be aggressive. You have to be more and more aggressive than your opponent in your attack. So Stockfish plays now a brilliant g4, sacrificing a pawn, but just in order to open the g file. And when we have this opposite side attack game, you don't count pawns anymore. You're just trying to open some files, open some diagonals. Here chess system Tal took, and now Stockfish retreats. e5 is not working. Stockfish anticipated the possibility of the move e5, but now obviously the d5 pawn is weak. So after bishop to g3, chess system Tal develops the piece and is trying finally to make something happen here on the queen side by pushing the pawns with a6 and b5. Stockfish continues now with the normal rook to g1, and you see now this g file is very progressive for white. G file is open, knight to b3 still can happen. We can also have this beautiful attack against the pawn on d5. So many options here for white. Bishop to d3 will also come. So really nice setup here by Stockfish 17. Queen to d8, queen drops back. Stockfish continues with knight to f3, knight to f6, and now bishop to d3. King to h8. The chess system Tal is finally getting out of this potential mess here on the g file. Stockfish continues with queen to e2, shifts the queen now to the king side, trying maybe in some line, if it's possible, get the queen on h5 and also create some damage in front of black's king. D takes c4, bishop to c4, but now the d file is again opened and there are several tactical threats again that black has to handle. Rook to c8, bishop to h4, bishop to e7, and now e4, pushing simply now in the center of the board with the idea to push then afterwards also the pawn on e5. We have rook to g8. Chess system Tal notices that it could have some problems here around the square g6, around the square h6, so it keeps now somehow the position compact in front of black's king. Now bishop to a2, I would say a good move again here by the fish. Really interesting move, because Stockfish noticed that the queen is a little bit overloaded to the defense of the bishop. Now the bishop drops back. Still, it's very active here on this diagonal, but now the queen in some lines could play more freely because the tensions were obvious here with the rook against this bishop on c4. And now chess system Tal finally plays now the move a6, the move that we have discussed now many times, but now it's a little bit too slow. My engine at home says that you should maybe try to defend this position with g5, then after something like bishop to g3, queen to a5. Again, white has these opportunities with h4, you're trying maybe g4, knight to d2, a6, finally, and then knight to c4. Look at this, very messy position again for black. e5 is coming, knight will hop to d6 in some lines. When e5 happens, we can play maybe some ideas, king to a1, bishop to b1, liberating this diagonal. So again, I would say completely busted position here for black. So after bishop to a2, chess system Tal finally tried the move a6 with the idea obviously to push the pawn on b5, but as we mentioned again, it's a little bit too slow. Bishop takes, and now e5. Now there is no defender against the bishop here on d7. Chess system Tal has to step back, and now queen to e3 with the idea to play rook to g3, rook to h3, and the tactical threat is obviously rook takes h6 followed with queen takes h6. Nice checkmate pattern here that Stockfish created here. Knight to b8, trying to hold this position around the square d7, but now comes this idea, rook to g3, queen to f8, rook to h3. Now the queen is again a little too passive here. It's just defending here the pawn on h6. Very messy position. All of these pieces in front of black's kings are cramped. Rook is defensive, queen is defensive, knight is defensive. The bishops are not having really also good time here in this particular position. Very interesting positional play here by Stockfish 70. So we have here bishop to b5. Stockfish continues now with an ultra aggressive knight to g5, rook to c7, and now knight to a4. We have bishop to a4 attacking against the rook, and now rook to d2. This move is okay, so you're getting out of this mess, but you have to of course keep your rook here on the d file, where the knight is still also having a tough time to get back into the game. Sorry about that, we're not going to answer that. So after rook to d2, we have now bishop to e8. The issue is that the queen, as we mentioned, by black doesn't have a good time. With queen to c8, okay, you're creating maybe some kind of a threat, but knight to f7 is going to happen. We have now king to h7 and then rook to h6. Look at this. This is very spectacular stuff. Then you have this amazing checkmate pattern. So no counterplay for black is possible so far on the c file. Even if you try maybe here to push the pawn on b5, then there are these ideas. Look at this, knight to f6, bishop to f6, g takes f6, and then you have rook takes h6, queen to h6, and then now knight to f7. A very interesting fork here, and then again it's game over here for black. So this is not working. So after rook to d2, instead of moving the queen, instead of pushing the pawn here on the queen side, chess system Tal has retreated with the bishop. But look at this, how passive this setup is. All of these pieces very passive on the back rank. Stockfish continues now with f4, continuing to push here on this side of the board. Knight to d7. We have now rook to d1, retreating now finally with the bishop. We have now rook to c6, trying to hold this position because the d6 square, we have to also mention, is really a structural weakness in black's camp. But again, even if you try b5, this is not working. Knight to d6, you're trying to take. Then we have this one, you're trying to play g6. Look at this, e takes d6, then queen to d4, queen to Queen to g7, rook to h6 in some lines is obviously winning the game again here for white. So there is always this tactical pattern with queen to d4 and then rook to h6. Very nice checkmate pattern that Stockfish created here. So even if you try rook to c8 to step back in this position, queen to d4 again with the same pattern. So nothing is really working here for black. So after rook to d1, we have now rook to c6. Chess system Tal is trying now to hold the position around the square d6, but now Stockfish found what is, in my opinion, the most beautiful part of the game. Maybe just for fun, if you want to practice some tactical ideas, pause the video and try to see now the winning idea here for white. White moves and wins the game. What would you do now in this particular position? Okay, here Stockfish found a beautiful rook takes d7. This is the way to go. After bishop to d7, now the queen comes into the game with the attack against the bishop, but now there are several tactical threats around the square h7. Here, after bishop to e8, Stockfish found now another brilliant move, the great follow-up, knight to h7. This is a beautiful smothered queen. The queen is trapped, and you have to take basically the knight if you don't want to lose the queen. But if you take the knight, then the problem is you get a double check with the knight and the king, and then you get checkmated here on h7. This is very spectacular chess. After knight to h7, that's why f5 had to be played here by chess system Tal. Stockfish took, Tal took. We have now queen to e4, rook to f8, and now bishop to c4. Stockfish in this tactical sequence grabbed the queen for the loss of a bishop and a rook, which is, I think, a great tactical shot. And now there are certain threats with bishop to d3, and the position is really collapsing here for black. After bishop to f7, we have rook to b3. A chess system Tal is protecting now the h7 square. We have rook to c7, and now Stockfish grabs finally the pawn here on b7. Rook takes, queen takes, bishop is hanging. Stockfish is picking up now more pawns. Rook to f4. Now Stockfish goes for the e6 pawn, and here after a couple more moves, we have a4, bishop to g1, queen to c4. First of all, the check, and now Stockfish is attacking the bishop. We have rook to g5, queen to c8, king to h7, queen to c2 check, and here after move b4 in this particular position, chess system Tal resigned. Maybe you can grab this one, maybe in some lines you can go for this pawn, but these pawns are rolling here. They have to be stopped in one particular moment by sacrificing maybe the rook or the bishop, and Stockfish still has the queen on the board. Fair resigned here by chess system Tal. So great game by the fish. Really stunning tactics. I think this is applicable. This is a line that you could study against the Queen's Gambit decline. This early queenside castling, very interesting, a rare line with the novelty that we have seen with king to b1, and with this amazing tactics. g4, interesting move, giving up a pawn in this opposite side attack games where you create madness on the g file. Very stunning again game by the strongest chess engine in the world, by Stockfish 17. So okay, this was it for today. Thanks for following my comeback analysis. I'll try to now get back in shape, try to be again continuing here my YouTube chess channel, but it's sometimes, as I mentioned, really tough to handle everything, regular work, family, and similar stuff. I have also dogs now that I have to walk every day, so I'll try to make my best. Thanks for following, and what to say in the end, chess is the best, of course.